Hello, my name is Sophia Slovenski and I graduated from Andover in 2018. I now go to the University of Southern Maine, and there I'm a major in exercise science and a minor in holistic and integrative health. At USM, I'm a member of the USM women's volleyball team as well as the track team. And for track, I primarily compete in the Javelin and the pole vault. So I started off this whole pandemic headed to Winston-Salem, North Carolina to compete in the pole vault at Indoor Nationals. So I was there and then we got headed back and everyone was like, this 2-week quarantine and then we'll be fine. And here we are a year and a half later. And it was really cool that Outdoor Nationals was back in North Carolina. I think that was so neat because it was we did the same flights. We got there and then it was outdoor, which was really cool. But so the whole pandemic, I think the craziest thing was how many quarantines we had to do. I did 3 school mandated quarantines. And the last one, I got COVID. I don't know where I got it from. And this was March 16th. March 16th, I found out I got COVID and I was put in a 10-day isolation. And on the last day of my isolation, second to last day, I got really, really sick and I called the school and I was like, someone needs to come check on me. I'm really not doing well. And they sent me to the hospital, got a cool little ambulance ride, got to the hospital and I was diagnosed with appendicitis and I had an emergency appendectomy on March 25th. And so I kind of thought my track season was over for outdoor because I could barely move. My stomach was so sore. The thought of like throwing anything and arching my back was just like, I didn't even think about it. And so my coaches, they were so great. They were just kind of like, you know what, this is a fun season. You just have to do what you can do. And so I just cheered on my teammates. One thing I do want to say though, is I was totally in awe of my coaches. They worked so hard so that we could have, honest to goodness, a full season. My teammates were competing literally every weekend, but a few for all of the indoor and outdoor season. And like everyone else, the hardest part of that was the part of track that I love so much, having people cheering me on and cheering for my teammates wasn't there. It was like, everyone had their masks on, you'd get usher in for your event, you'd run your event, and then you'd go home. You wouldn't even stay. And so that was really crazy to me to have, I don't know, a 10-minute track meet, but to know everyone else was competing. And so once again, my coaches really killed it. I am so amazed by them and just so thankful for their support all the way through, going into a quarantine the first time and coming out, you haven't worked out in a room and then trying to get back on the track and you're just completely out of breath. And then doing that 2 more times. And then the last time after surgery was just really hectic, but I was thankful for them. And I think honestly, all of that kind of took off pressure, if that makes sense. I just was going into nationals like, I'm gonna do what I can do. The season doesn't count. I still have eligibility, and to come away with the title was absolutely insane. So I was really happy about that. I think in general for me, because I went to Andover as a postgrad, that was my transition year. That was the first step in transitioning to college because I had already done high school and I graduated high school in Canada. And my team in Canada was about 5 kids, me and my sister, my dad as a coach, and a few other athletes. And then coming to Andover and having that team environment was really, really helpful. Having specialized coaches for each event was so absurd to me and it was amazing. So I grew up in Canada and I did track there. And then to come to the US and have these huge competitions, Andover, Exeter, those big days, that really prepped me for college and the competition that I would have there. And I think my favorite thing about Andover was it taught me how to prioritize my time and how to, be a student athlete, always put my academics first and then have fun with track when I got there to practice. And that was my mental break for the day. Yeah. in my specific events, I have not, but the coolest thing happened at nationals. I was under the tent waiting to go to the awards ceremony, and someone came up to me, tapped me on the shoulder, and was like, "Did you go to Andover?" And I was like, "Yes, did you go to Andover?" And it was Victoria Kadiri, and it was so cool. She also All-American in the long jump. Super cool, just to get that little Andover connection. And also awesome, I walk in the second day, I'm not competing this day. I walk in, I look up in the stands and I see this man and I'm like, that is Coach Rex. I walk all the way up to the thing and I got a big bear hug from Coach Rex, always happy to see him. And we got to cheer on Johnny, who killed it in the hammer. That was super exciting. And yeah, I think track in general, I run into a bunch of people from Andover, and as you know, Andover Connect, real thing, love it. I think big career highlight for me has been my personal record in the pole vault. I jumped a little over 12.6. And what was so cool about this was that when I first got to Bowdoin, I had a huge PR and I jumped 12 on the runway at the state meet, and I set the record at the state meet. And then I transferred to USM, and we're back at the state meet, back on that same runway. And I just wanted to beat my record so bad. And it was so amazing. I had the Bowdoin kids, they called me Sophie, most of them. So I hear people cheering for Sophie. And then the USM kids, for some reason, call me Sophia. And so I could hear Sophia and Sophie being screamed at me. And I ended up jumping 12.6. And that was just the most amazing thing, to just feel support from all my teammates all around me. COVID protocols, it was definitely different. So when we were headed to Winston-Salem for indoor nationals in March of 2020, right before COVID hit, we were sanitizing everything. We were like, are we going to be in lockdown in the airport? You know, because everything was starting to get canceled. Sanitizing everything, no masks at that point, which was really interesting. But then to kind of compare it to a year and a half later, headed to Greensboro in that same Baltimore layover, everyone masked up, just kind of doing their job, social distance, everything like that. What was so crazy, I think, was at a lot of the meets, it was really different. You know, some meets, most meets were masked up, and like seeing people run the 5K, 10K wearing a mask, my heart went out to them. I was like, I don't know how they're doing it, but they're doing a good job. And then I got to nationals and it was a whole different thing. There were no masks. It was really crazy. No one was wearing masks in Greensboro, North Carolina. Not sure that's a good thing to say, but it was definitely different. It was a different environment. I think having people cheering me on at the event was so like foreign this whole past year that it really gave me the extra boost I needed, you know, looking out and seeing my teammates and seeing, you know, seeing the Bates coach, like a bunch of friends there, just cheering me on was really awesome. And I think just to recap everything, I think what's so neat about track is that individual aspect. I love the team aspect of it, but the individual aspect of it, at least for USM, made it possible to have a lot of the events. And that's why I feel so fortunate, you know, talking to some of my friends at other schools. I know that they really did not get a season. And so I'm grateful that I was able to compete and that I was able to do all of this in the midst of a pandemic. So 3 days before the meet, I definitely was at my max stress level. I was like, I know how the title is anyone's. The title is literally anyone's. Whoever throws well that day will win. You know, seeding does not matter when you go into these big meets. And so I was really stressing myself out, just putting a lot of pressure, like, you can win this so easily. You just got to do it. Not so easily, but you know what I'm saying. And I was really freaking out. And so I talked to my coach and I was like, look, we both know pole vault is my, for lack of better words, scary event, and Javelin is my chill event. I just like to chuck things, you know? And so I talked to him and I was like, I almost just need someone to take this pressure off of me. Like, I'm really stressing out right now. And he said to me, he was like, Sophie, this is a bonus season, you know? Doesn't even count towards your eligibility. We're just there to have fun. This is a trip to Greensboro. And that's what I needed to hear, you know? And so once I got there, I don't know what it was. I could feel it. I could feel it, if I could say that. I, like the past 2 meets, started doing this really weird thing. Instead of like doing a full warm up, I would honestly just kind of dance. That sounds weird, but I just needed to just do a little yoga dance type thing. I felt like warm up wasn't really tiring me out, but it just wasn't warming me up the way I needed to get warm. And so I would do this little dance, whatever. If you see me at any track meet, I'm always doing handstands, somersaults, back bends, lying on the ground, flat in the grass. I'm just a weird competitor, and that's how I need to be for me. And I tell this to my coach. I'm like, look, when I compete in the javelin, I know you know this, I'm going to be in my own head. I'm not going to be listening to anything. I don't want you to tell me where I'm placed. I don't want to know how far I've thrown. That's just not what I want to do. I want to have fun in the exact moment. And something class from Andover, Andrew Huzio, he introduced me to meditation. And so something I would do before every throw is I would find 5 things that I can see, 4 things that I can hear, 3 things that I can touch, 2 things that I can smell, and 1 thing that I can taste. And so that would just kind of recenter me before every throw. And on the little recap, you can see I close my eyes before every throw, except my last throw. So the last throw, I kind of threw everything up in the air and I just kind of smiled at the camera, and I'm like reminding myself, this is fun. It's literally like, what other species throws things for fun and then gets like measured on it, you know? So I just went back on the runway and I was like, we're just gonna throw this as far as we possibly can. And so got on the runway. And so in javelin, just to explain, you want to block your front leg. And that's the biggest thing I have trouble with. I tend to buckle at the knee. And so I told myself this time, like, you literally have nothing to lose. Just block that front leg and it will soar. And so I start going down the runway. I do my little crossover. And in the slowdown video that my coach showed me afterwards, it's so cool. I buckle my leg, and then with all the power within me, I somehow re-straighten it. And so that was pretty cool to see myself kind of overcome it in that very second. And the moment I threw it, it just felt so crisp. I don't know how else to describe it. It just kind of soared, and just to see how happy my coach was. And I had kept thinking, like, I wanted to throw 46. My goal was just a PR. And so my previous personal record was 44.60 meters. And I was like hoping for 46 something. And when I heard 48.21, also in the video, you can see I literally just dropped to the floor. I'm like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, did they say 38 something? It felt too good to be 38. And so to get over 3 meter PR was pretty amazing. Yep.
Sophia Slovenski is back up. Her final throw. Trying to take back at least second place. Gives that one a ride. And an excellent throw by Slovenski. A 48.21. And Slovenski takes over first place. From the tell of the celebration, it looks like Sophia Slovenski has gone on to win the national championship in the javelin throw.
Yeah, so the day before the meet is when you go to the track, and some people practice that day or do whatever they need to do, warm up, roll out. But what I do, another little mindfulness thing, is I go and I see the runway so that I can visualize the whole night, you know? And so it's kind of funny, my coach is watching me. I get out there, some people are throwing, and I just go, I stand on the back of the runway, and then I walk to like each four corners, and I just try to see like this piece of grass is where I want to throw to, if that makes sense. Like little things just in my head. There was this beautiful tree on the end of the runway. So it was like, I'm going to try and hit that tree, you know? And I didn't throw once that day, and I got home, and honest to goodness, I could barely sleep. I was just visualization, visualization, visualization. I felt like I threw the javelin 800 times. And so when I got to the meet the next day, I just knew that mentally I had prepared myself and it was going to be a good day. So yeah, that's my little pre-meet ritual. And then shout out, can I give a little shout out? Obviously, Miss Yole, you are the reason that I went to Andover. Always, thank you so much for everything. And then Coach Beckwith, volleyball, shout out right there. Miss Hilton, I'm not sure if she still is at Andover, but think about you a lot and you've really helped me. And then there's obviously Coach Gorham, Coach Rex, Coach Hessian, all my people in track. Miss you and thank you for getting me to where I am today. Also Maeve, my roommate, we're still best friends. I love her. That's it. Yeah.
And stepping up to the podium right now, Sophia Slovenski. National champion on her final throw, a 48.21 meter hurl.
A sophomore from Southern Maine, Sophia Slovenski.
Unloading the cannon to win the national championship.